Alright, welcome back to Dinopedia. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below as we get into our next entry of the Archaeopteryx. Sorry, I cannot say this name. Archaeopteryx. I just call it the Archaeo. So, of course, the schedule, as always, is talk about the Archaeo from Ark Survival, tips and tricks, potential add-ons for Ark Survival Ascended, and reworking from my new game, Dino World. Let's get into it. So the Archaeo from Ark Survival Ascended is, of course, an animal, so it goes in the kingdom of Animalia. It's the group reptilian because it's a dinosaur, even though it looks like a bird. As we've probably learned in some sort of history class, dinosaurs are very close to birds, even though they were still lizards. So it is still in the group reptilian, and its description is among the raptor family. So it is in the same family as the velociraptor. So traits in Ark Survival Ascended: it builds nests in trees, can be found flying from tree to tree or hovering above the ground, and if threatened, it will flee from fights. So even if you hit it, it won't attack you, it'll just flee from you. So you will have to chase it to tame it or kill it if you want to do that. So the Archaeo from Ark Survival has our stats here of health 125, stamina and oxygen both 150, food and water 900 each, weight 30, melee 5, does 5 melee damage base. Remember, these are level 1 stats, so it is the base level 1, so it does increase over time. Speed is 1.5 meters per second while walking, and swimming speed is double that of 3 meters per second. And of course, its torpor is 100. So if we compare the Ark Survival Evolved and Ascended version of the Archaeo versus the Jurassic World Evolution number 2 Archaeo, I think the Ark Survival one looks better. Obviously, the Jurassic World one has more unique feathers, as its feathers are more straight-lined. I do think the Ark Survival Evolved one has better overall color scheme, because even though there are gray ones in Ark Survival, I do think the feathers look better on the Ark Survival one. The Jurassic World one looks kind of neat as well. Honestly, I'd like to consider both of them as different dinosaurs, but I think the thing that sells it for the Ark Survival one is that while the Jurassic World one has a blank head, this one has a multicolored head with feathers on its head. So I think that's what really sells it to me, that Ark Survival is better than the Jurassic World edition. So tips and tricks. First with tips, it's an insectivore, so it only eats chitin when tamed. So of course it doesn't eat meat or berries, you just need chitin. So you're going to have to kill insects and trilobites for chitin, as it only eats insects in the wild. Number 2, slow falling when held. So if you do fall off a cliff and it's on your shoulder, you can activate it to slow fall so you don't take fall damage. Escapist. You can use this as a quick getaway by using the dino's glide ability. So let's say you're being chased by a T-Rex, run up to the side of a cliff and use it to glide away off the cliff. And also sap collector. So when set on wander in a redwood or Josea tree forest, it will passively collect sap from these trees. So it is useful for sap collection, escaping dinosaurs in a chase, falling off cliffs, and I mean, it doesn't take up any of your meat or berries, but you do need to kill insects and trilobites to feed it. So there is that. So some tricks when using it: energy efficiency when using tech armor to fly, so Genesis 1 or 2. Using an Archaeo can lower the amount of energy used needed to power your armor, so it'll make it so it takes less effort to fly and glide using the armor. So of course it'd be beneficial if you are low on energy. Tech caves. So also on Genesis 1 and 2, tech caves. When using the Archaeo's glide ability, a player can fly through the entire length of the tech cave to the end without ever touching the ground. So if you want to avoid and get an easy cave run, just get an Archaeo and glide right through the cave, collect the artifact, and then get out. Number 3, shoulder pet can be stored on your shoulder for easier use. Obviously, shoulder pets are pretty cool, and this one's pretty much one of the better ones. And then number 4, portable hang glider. Equip to glide from cliff to cliff, as we said before with the escapists, using it quickly to get away with the glide ability. You can go from cliff to cliff, jump from tree to tree, or glide from a high place to a low place without taking any fall damage. Let's say you're on top of a mountain, just take it and ride right off the mountain without taking any fall damage down to the river below. It's very simple, very unique, and I do think it's a pretty good addition to the game when it was first announced. So there are some potential things I'd like to see being added for the Archaeo in Ark Survival Evolved. I think it should be a mobile glider. It should be, if called by whistle, it will automatically fly to you and activate as a life preserver by gliding you to safety. So let's say you fall off a big cliff, but it's nearby. If you whistle before you fall off, it'll immediately glide to you. Or if you're about to jump off because you're being chased, You can whistle, it flies towards you if it's nearby, and then you can jump off the cliff and save. It's basically like a free elevator trick. So let's say it's like you have like a 10-story base. You're about to jump off it, you just whistle for the Archaeo, and then it just comes to you and gives you a glide down to safety. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then number 2, Seek and Destroy. I think this should be for almost every shoulder pet that can attack and has a decent attack. When on your shoulder, order it to attack a dino from afar and be able to recall it back to your shoulder. I think since the Archaeo can fly, this is very useful, as you can just send it out to like aggro Carno, so it comes in and you can tame it. Or aggro Giga, so you can like potentially just like keep it down below you, and the Archaeo can just keep attacking it without you having to ever attack the Giga. I think that'd be pretty cool. And the fact that it can fly means you can do it from a cliff, so of course you can just have the Archaeo continuously attack carnivores from below, killing them without it having to do anything. Without you having to do anything, and it's mostly your Archaeo, and you just buff up its attack and speed so it can get away without being attacked, and of course it can deal more damage. Alright, so when comparing the Ark Survival Evolved to the Dino World 1, obviously it's going to have the same design, feathers on the head, but I'm going to make it more fluffy. So it's fluffy here, but I wanted to make it a little bit more fluffy, but I still wanted to keep the amazing feathers of the Ark Survival Evolved Archaeo, but I wanted to make the keep the feathers on the head. It basically is the same design except more feathers, and the feathers are blue rather than just default gray. Alright, so when going for the Dino World Archaeo, obviously there's a normal Archaeo, which is a wild or tamed dino you can find in the wild or tamed. And then there's a mutated Archaeo, which is the product of 2 tamed dinos and plus a gene computer to allow it to have genetic mutations. Of course, traits, Animalia and reptiles stay the same, so it has the same kingdom, same group, and its class and family is the Raptor family, which also includes the Microraptor, Troodon, Compies, Velociraptor, Colosopus, anything you want in that Raptor family. Looking at the stats, it has a few nerf stats as we will compare it to the Ark stats. Lowered the health from 125 to 100. Stamina was increased from 150 to 175. Food and water was almost halved to 500. Weight was reduced slightly to 25 from 30. And the speed was increased from 1.5 meters per second in Ark to 2 meters per second, just to make it more simple and more safe. And of course, fortitude is 0 because, of course, it doesn't have any fortitude because it is small and it is very light. So additional traits, obviously I wanted to keep the mobile glider and seek and destroy methods from adding it to Ark. But if we wanted to look at number 2, passive tame, I think instead of having to constantly chase this thing around with a bola, I think if it flies near you and you're able to like feed it, or like even if you are able to use a bola on it, you can tame it by feeding chitin in your offhand, so it's a passive tame. Same thing, there's a lot of passive tames in Ark, and I think this one's pretty simple. Just feed it chitin and it passively tames when you feed it from chitin from your offhand. And then of course night vision. Since it is a nocturnal dinosaur most of the time, while it's on your shoulder, it should give you a passive night vision buff, because that just makes sense to me. Alright, and then finally what we're going to look at is the Dino World spawns in the main map Europa. Of course we have blue for guaranteed, green for very likely, yellow few to likely, orange to rare, red to very rare, and of course purple to dead. So the Dino World spawns are in the jungle biomes, the northern jungle and the eastern jungle, and it is the inner jungle. So not the coastal jungle, not the beaches of the jungle, just the inner jungle. It's very likely to find these things hovering around the inner jungle, but just the inner jungle, not the coastal regions, and it is very likely, regardless, to find them anywhere in these northern jungle or eastern jungle. Alright, so that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you like it. Comment down below your thoughts, and everyone have a blessed day, and as always, toodaloo!